Welcome to The Way of Things. In this video, we're going to discuss a subject that's very important and has a lot of common sense issues really related to it, and that's desert survival. And it's a type of desert survival that we're going to talk to or address that most people will find themselves into, and that's basically the day hiker. We have a lot of people that go out in a vehicle and either get problems with the vehicle or problems out hiking. And there are certain things we can do to prevent that. Now, one of the people that knows quite a bit about this is my brother-in-law, Tim Liddell, who has hiked extensively in Joshua Tree and other places like Death Valley and the Owens Valley. Has had a lot of experience with emergencies and things like that in his profession. So we're going to talk about that. So Tim, tell us some of the stuff that you have found. Just say a person starting out with the vehicle that you think they should have before they even get out there so they don't have to do some desert survival, as it were.
I think it's important to have the car ready just in case you have to use that vehicle as a temporary base of survival or comfort out in the desert. Something you should do is have extra blankets in the trunk, some water, food, make sure it's in good running condition, full tank of gas, so never leave without a full tank of gas, no matter where you're going. And just think of it as a survival tool. You may need it later.
I imagine back in the day, you probably found a lot of people that ran into problems due to just running out of gas.
I did. In the desert, crossing the open desert without a full tank of gas, even if you've got to pay more somewhere, it's still worth it to get that tank of gas full.
Now, what other things, because of course, they're going to get out into their vehicle, and then they're going to drive out there. We've talked about that. What other things might they have with them that they plan to carry once they hike?
Okay, there's actually a list. It's called the 10 Essentials. Many outdoor organizations use this list. It's a very simple list. Everything is fairly lightweight. You can carry it in a day pack or an overnight pack. Everything is easily available, and I have that list. I can read it to you.
Well, what are some of the highlights on the list? What are some of the highlights that people might not, some of the things they might realize are on it, like maybe a first aid kit or something, but what are some of the things you think in your experience are a real must?
I like the 10 Essentials. It's been around for a long time. In fact, they've revised it up a little bit. But these items on this list are pretty basic, and if you have these items on this list in your day pack,
well, go ahead and give us the list.
You should be able to be okay. So the list says, number one would be a map, and of course know how to use that map, whether it's a topo map or just a simple map, just knowing where you are. The second one is some sort of flashlight, some kind of lighting device that's reliable, fully charged up.
And of course, a light out here in the desert can often be seen for miles, and of course, desert survival is what we're talking about.
Exactly. When you're talking about something that can be heard for miles, something else I just thought of is a whistle.
I know a lot of people say that. I usually don't carry one, but that's not necessarily a good thing. So What else do we have on the list?
Extra food and water, and plenty of water. I mean, if you're going to be out there in the summertime hiking, not just the water you're going to carry on your belt or in your pack, but just a little bit extra. I think it's worth it to carry some extra water and get used to carrying that extra weight, even if you never use it.
Okay.
Another one is some extra clothing, and along with that, I would put in there some sort of thermal shelter. Those little tiny thermal silver packs you can buy.
Mm-hmm.
They weigh nothing.
The space blanket.
Space blankets. Throw a couple of those in there. You'll never even notice the weight. That could keep the rain off and also keep the heat in if you need that. Something else on the list is a fire starter. Something to some kind of fuel for the next item on your list.
That's something I always carried, but I use a disposable cigarette lighter. They got thousands of lights. You can use it to even get something wet burning, because you can use it like a little torch.
Yes.
And I have found that that's a good way to carry essentially a lot of fire.
Right, that's good.
And it's very lightweight, of course.
Right. Matches, I go along with that. Just something to get yourself in, something that's reliable. Another item on here is sunglasses and sunscreen, something to protect your face in case you're out somewhere and there's no shade and you have to walk a long distance to get to shade. You're going to need those two items. Some kind of a simple first aid kit. Some people throw in a snake bite kit, some don't. But some kind of first aid kit in case you get injured, to try and keep yourself clean with a good kit. And of course a knife, a very good reliable knife.
Now, I used to carry a Swiss Army knife a lot, but now I use one of these Leathermans or multi-tools, I think they call them generically. And the difference is that it has a plier usually. And I find that a very useful tool sometimes. And of course they have a knife and different tools and screwdrivers and so forth on them. And I have found that packing one of those is kind of the direction I went rather than just a knife.
Yes, it's amazing how often you use the pliers. I carry one at all times on my belt, wherever I am, and the pliers are always handy. So that's the 10 essentials.
Well, now, Tim, one of the things that once, of course, you get out there, you park, and the typical day hiker parks and just starts walking off into the wilderness, and of course, especially a place actually in Joshua Tree where you've got a fairly complex landscape, you can walk off and then come back maybe from a different direction, and of course everything looks different. And you can, of course, get disoriented and lost or miss your car by a couple of 100 yards and through the thickness of the trees not see it. So I know one of the things I do is I try to look back at the car once I've gone up a hill or I'm a couple of 100 yards away to kind of get an idea of where it is in the landscape. Is this something that you've done as well, or what other means of navigation do you tend to use right as you start to leave? What other things, as you leave the car, what other things should we think about?
Pick out some kind of a physical landmark that's near your vehicle, maybe a rock formation that's in back of it, even going so far as drawing a small picture of where your car is, and maybe a simple diagram of a particular rock formation that's in back of your car, or a tree, something like that. Usually in the open desert, we have really long vistas and you can pretty much keep track of everything, but it does happen you can get disoriented. So pick out a landmark that goes along with your car. I know that rock formation is in back of the car when I left it. The other thing I was thinking of is when you leave your vehicle, you park it, especially if you're going by yourself, take a note.
Which is something a lot of people do.
Right, a lot of people hike by themselves. It's best to hike with somebody else or even two other people, but some people hike alone. Take a note and put it on the dash of the car that's visible from the outside with an arrow on it and a little note on there that says direction of hike. Therefore, if you get lost and you're out there and your car's there and people start looking for you, find your car there parked alongside the road.
Which they usually find first.
Right. Especially if you've told somebody where you're going, which you really should do, and about when you leave back.
Okay.
They look on your dash through your windshield and it says direction of hike with an arrow. That cuts down the search area by half.
I would say at least in half, because sometimes, if an arrow is like pointing up a canyon or some other obvious place, they kind of know, where the trail or something leads. And yes, I could see where that would be,
Right.
would cut the search time, which could be your life, which could be
Exactly.
your life.
And if you're going to put that note on the dash and tell people you went that way, stick to the plan. Don't wander off the other direction
Yeah.
and confuse things.
Yes.
So be responsible as far as staying with your direction.
Okay, well, that seems to kind of wrap this segment up. I want to thank everybody for listening to this and hope it's some interesting stuff. And that's just the way of things in the desert. Thank you very much.